So in World Animal Protection, we move the world to protect animals. And we've recognized that responsible dog ownership is the key to almost everything, right? So we carried out a survey in 2017 with 10,000 of our Latin American supporters from the organization. And what we found is that many of them, if not all, consider dogs to be a member of their family. Some of the insights from that survey is that most of them are vaccinated, only some of them are sterilized. Most are dewormed and only some are identified, and mostly through tagging. We really don't have a lot of microchipping in Latin America. And this really is sort of like the same thing that Yao was mentioning yesterday with the survey that we did worldwide. It has the same sort of results. And we asked their supporters to ask us any questions that they wanted to know about dogs, about behavior, nutrition, and they asked us so many questions. And what we realized is that, yes, they love their dogs, but there is a very poor understanding and knowledge of dog needs, dog behavior, all dog-related sort of care. One of the tendencies in Latin America is for the increased use of the internet, and most of it is through mobile devices. And that the survey and this tendency gave us the idea, and then we made the decision to shoot a pilot project to improve dog ownership and the dog-human bond through an app that we named Barkyard. One of the features is that you can create a dog profile in the app. So you put the name of your dog, a photograph, and you tell the app how old it is, how, weight, size, all the things that you want. But three most important things: if the dog is vaccinated, sterilized, and identified. Then there's a calendar where you can add dog-specific related activities such as vaccination, sterilization, deworming, nail trimming, for example. And it synchronizes with your Google Calendar. Then there is the dog library, and this is the heart of everything, because this is where the information on responsible dog ownership is and where the owners can go in and find it. We have 5 specific categories: health, behavior, nutrition, environment, and communities. And communities is where we put in all the information related to dog population management and the activities that normal people, regular dog owners can take to help the animals in their communities. We also have a smaller one there at the bottom, the gray one, disasters, where we also talk about how to help animals in disasters and prevent them from suffering. Then there's the trivias and prizes section, where the owner can spin the roulette and play a trivia and get some points. And with those points, they can buy these little stamps that they will have in their collection within the phone. And that's an example of one of the prizes that they get. There's a bunch of different types of dogs with different names and different responsible dog ownership related icons. And then there's a first aid section where owners can go in and see, for example, digestive issues or gestation issues or bleeding, for example. And the vet contacts, where they can upload any of the contacts that they want related to their animals, and they can dial directly from the app in case of an emergency, for example. And the notifications, which is how we communicated with them through the app. If we saw, for example, that there was a drought or something going on, then we can actually message them and tell them how to protect their animals from that drought and how to, or any sort of notification. The app was officially launched in Mexico in 2018, in May, and throughout those 8 months, we had more than 8,000 downloads and 1,000 dogs benefited. By benefited, we mean 3 things: if the dog was sterilized, identified, or vaccinated. And this vaccinated was actually more broad. It's not just rabies vaccination, it was vaccination in general. And as you can see, again, the identified is an issue that we have in Latin America, because it's not something that people do. It's similar to what Yao was mentioning yesterday, and we let our dogs roam a lot, and so therefore we can't recognize them from the unowned dogs. So for more than 4,000 articles were read by 3,700 people. Just to give you an idea, that's about 2 minutes and 2.42 minutes spent reading articles. That's like 700 words or 1.5 page articles. That's a lot. People don't read a lot. This is a lot of time spent reading. And we found this really inspiring. The favorite categories was behavior and health, and their favorite article was how to control bleeding. I guess that's the first one you go to, like, what if my dog is bleeding? What do I do, right? 330 people used the calendar events to create 435 events. The most common reminders were when to deworm, baths, and then vaccination. Obviously, there's always the data that we have is that there's a specific group of people carrying out more than one activity. And then 36,000 trivias played. The trivias is a great source of information because it's gamification of information, right? And we found that great, and people were actually using it. All right, there's pros and cons to creating an app. There's many apps having been discussed, right? And I just wanted to sort of, because I went through the entire process of the app, and I can tell you there's pros and cons to building an app. For us specifically, it allowed us to reach a large audience with no need for mobilization of team. The cost of traveling to these places, giving workshops, is just not feasible. So we wanted to try out something that would allow us to reach a larger audience. This was great for us. I know that it was launched in Mexico, but people from all over Latin America downloaded it, from all the different countries, and even some from Africa and other places. I don't know, because it's just in Spanish right now, but people from there downloaded it. There's a provision for 3 languages, so we were hoping that we were going to be able to translate it into other languages. And it also allowed us to track the user's interest. And so now we have a better understanding of our audience and what they need and what they're looking for, which we didn't necessarily have before. And it also allowed us to focus on our 3 priorities: vaccination, sterilization, identification. So when you create the user profile, what happens is that you put the dog's photo and you have 3 gray icons. And when you vaccinate the animal and you tell the profile, oh, my animal has been vaccinated, this turns orange. And the common human behavior is that when you see that this is orange, but the sterilization icon and identification icon are gray, you're going to want to do it. So people are like, I need to get that orange. It's also sort of like gamification in a way. And so those are the good things. But the cons are that apps in general are expensive initially, and the maintenance costs never disappear. And I know that is something that we knew, but maybe we didn't know it that well. The learning curve is immense. If you don't know anything about building apps, and even if you do, every time that you build one, this learning curve is so huge, and especially when the needs are unclear. We knew what we wanted, but we didn't know how we wanted it. And so the designers and the developers really just developed what they thought that we wanted, and it wasn't necessarily that. So there was a lot of going back and forth. And also, apps have a very short lifespan. The last I read, people put apps on their phone, and it's there for 2 months. As an average. You know how you take it off your phone and then you put it back? So the actual work of bringing people back to using the app is really, really high in cost. Our biggest learning is the app storyboard. If you've ever seen a movie, you know that there are different screens and they'll draw everything. This needs to be ready before you call a designer or before you call a developer. Please do this if you're thinking about building an app. Every button and where it goes to, that needs to be present before. So for a pilot project, we considered that this pilot project was successful because people did take actions for dogs. We were actually able to measure it in a way which is sometimes really hard when you're doing indirect educational activities. People did use the education tools, and now we have a flexible multi-language tool that can be adapted locally because all of the material that goes into it can be created locally. So it is not like we have a specific material and that's just what we use. We can adapt it locally. And all of that material that we created is now a new material for the organization. So it was a really interesting job in the creation of material. That's it.